World War II, the war of words between Churchill and De Valera just 75 years ago. It was a triumphant moment, of course, for the British wartime Prime Minister, who was acclaimed at that moment as the man who won the war. Part of that success indeed had been reflected in his celebrated radio broadcasts. And in his victory broadcast, along with his acclamation to British listeners that this is your victory, he also allowed himself a tilt at Irish neutrality, which he had always railed against. In the flush of victory, he could not refrain from yet another complaint.
This was indeed a deadly moment in our life, and if it had not been for the loyalty and friendship of Northern Ireland, we should have been forced to come to close quarters with Mr. de Valera or perish forever from the earth.
One listener was displeased. Britain's special representative in Dublin, Sir John Maffey, recognised Churchill was being Churchill.
However, with the restraint and poise to which I say history will find few parallels, His Majesty's government never laid a violent hand upon them, though at times it would have been quite easy and quite natural.
Maffey had a nuanced appreciation of the complexity of Anglo-Irish relations.
And we left the de Valera government to frolic with the German and later with the Japanese representatives to their heart's content.
Churchill's broadcast might have made the rafters ring in orange halls north of the border, but Maffey quickly appreciated it would not make his job any easier.
When I think of these days, I think also of other episodes and personalities. I think of Lieutenant Commander Esmond, V.C., of Lance Corporal Keneally, V.C., of Captain Fegan, V.C., and other Irish heroes that I could easily recite. And then I must confess that bitterness by Britain against the Irish race dies in my heart. I can only pray that in years which I shall not see, the shame will be forgotten and the glories will endure, and that the peoples of the British Isles, as of the British Commonwealth of Nations, will walk together in mutual comprehension and forgiveness.
How would De Valera respond?
There was almost a feeling of depression on you that this fellow was after saying this, there was a kind of a stillness in the air, if you know what I mean, that this had hit him, and fellows were wondering, is this so, or were we the cause of this, and did we do this,
I knew that it was something tremendously important.
De Valera's son Terry De Valera remembered the circumstances.
I knew that all his energies would be devoted to it.
As did Secretary at Posts and Telegraphs historian Lohan O'Brien.
Well, I think it was generally taken to be a very, very, very well done thing.
I know the answer that first springs to the lips of every man of Irish blood who heard or read that speech, no matter in what circumstances or in what part of the world he found himself.
I think Irish people certainly were very happy about it.
I know the reply I would have given a quarter of a century ago, but I have deliberately decided that this is not the reply I shall make tonight. I shall strive not to be guilty of adding any fuel to the flames of hatred and passion, which, if continue to be fed, promise to burn up whatever is left by the war of decent human feeling in Europe.
All the boys were assembled in the study hall, and the radio was brought down, as it used to be for big matches also.
Future political correspondent of the Irish Press, Michael Mills, was a boarding school pupil in Ballyfin. He recalled the school listening to Dev's reply.
And we heard Dev's reply to Churchill, and that was a magnificent evening. We all cheered. That was one of the great memories of Ballyfin, of that dark evening and listening to the voice.
Allowances can be made for Mr. Churchill's statement, however unworthy, in the first flush of his victory. No such excuse can be found for me in this quiet atmosphere.
And it expressed the sentiments which so many of us felt.
Meanwhile, even as a partitioned small nation, we shall go on and strive to play our part in the world, continuing unswervingly to work for the cause of true freedom and for peace and understanding between all nations. As a community which has been mercifully spared from all major sufferings, as well as from the blinding hates and rancors engendered by the present war, we shall endeavour to render thanks to God by playing a Christian part in helping, so far as a small nation can, to bind up some of the gaping wounds of suffering humanity.
We were very elated with it, and it was a communal response.
Yes.
We all cheered.
Britain's diplomatic representative in Dublin, Sir John Maffey, quickly appreciated that his initial misgivings at Churchill's words had proved correct. The British diplomatic archives reveal his annoyance. "Can you not stop the bull?" he meant Churchill entering our china shop. He meant Anglo-Irish relations. He told his London bosses that De Valera was being treated as the Irishman who had scored the winning try at Twickenham.
But then, overnight, there was, if anything, a more deadly silence when Dev came out and he gave this reply that he gave, like, you just sat back and listened.
From the radio archives of 75 years ago.